You weren't born with a weak mind, and there's nothing forcing you to remain the same person you are today. Your mind learns, it adapts, it grows stronger. And every time you face something difficult and decide to keep going, every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, every time you choose courage, even when you feel afraid, you teach yourself something powerful. I can do this. That's how a strong mind begins to take shape. Not all at once. Not because someone wakes up determined one morning, but decision after decision, until eventually what once required effort starts becoming part of who you are. Before we continue, I want you to write this sentence in the comments. My strength comes from within. Don't write it for me, write it for yourself. Write it as a commitment that, starting today, you won't wait for life to get easier before discovering just how strong you can become. Now, pay close attention. Two people can face the exact same challenge. They can both feel fear, uncertainty, exhaustion, and the urge to give up. But while one believes they need to feel strong before they can keep going, the other understands something far more powerful. They become strong by continuing. That's the difference. Mental strength isn't the absence of fear, it's knowing how to move forward even when fear shows up. Discipline isn't about never feeling lazy. It's about following through on what matters even when you don't feel like it. Courage isn't a quality reserved for a select few. Courage can be trained too. The Stoic philosophers understood this more than 2,000 years ago. To them, character, discipline, courage, and self-control weren't gifts you were born with. They were abilities developed through practice, repeated so many times that they eventually became part of a person's identity. And maybe that's exactly the change you're looking for. Not another burst of motivation that disappears tomorrow, but a strength that stays with you precisely on the days when motivation doesn't show up. Because life won't always wait until you feel ready. There will be moments when your plans fall apart, difficulties arise, and you'll have to decide who you're going to be in the face of them. And those are the moments you're going to start preparing for right now. In the next few minutes, you'll learn 5 Stoic principles for building an iron mindset, strengthening your discipline, facing challenges more effectively, and discovering just how far you can go when you stop doubting your own ability to grow. Because maybe the strength you've spent so long searching for was never missing. Maybe it was simply waiting to be trained. Action 1. Don't run from what can make you stronger. There is one mistake that destroys more dreams than a lack of talent, money, or opportunity. And the most dangerous part is that almost everyone makes this mistake without even realizing it. People negotiate with their own discomfort. They negotiate when the alarm goes off. They negotiate when they need to have a difficult conversation. They negotiate when the workout gets hard. They negotiate when work becomes exhausting. They negotiate when life demands from them exactly what they still don't want to do. And every negotiation ends the same way. They choose the more comfortable path and, without realizing it, become a little weaker. This is where the difference between an ordinary mind and an iron mindset begins. Most people believe that strong people simply endure more pain. But that isn't true. They've simply stopped arguing with what needs to be done. While an ordinary mind asks, "Can I really do this?" a strong mind asks, "What needs to be done right now?" Do you see the difference? The first conversation revolves around emotions. The second revolves around action. And that small shift can change an entire life. Think about iron. It isn't born strong. Before it becomes a sword capable of cutting through almost anything, it goes through fire. It is struck with a hammer, heated again, bent again, over and over. If it could choose, it would never accept that process. But the very thing that looks like destruction is what creates its strength. The exact same thing happens with the mind. Every difficulty you avoid keeps your mind exactly as it is. Every discomfort you face changes who you are. That is why mentally strong people don't seek out suffering. But they don't run from it either, because they understand a truth that almost no one sees. Every time you run from a difficulty, you teach your brain that it was too much for you. Every time you stay with it, you teach yourself the exact opposite. You tell yourself, I can handle this. And from that moment on, what once seemed impossible starts to feel normal. That is how an iron mindset is built, not through one great act of courage, but through hundreds of small decisions where you stop asking discomfort for permission to keep going. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that captures this extraordinarily well. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This completely changes the way you see life. Most people wait for the discomfort to disappear before they act. The Stoic does exactly the opposite. The Stoic uses discomfort as a sign of growth, because there is a truth no one tells you. Mental strength never appears before the challenge. It appears during it. No one discovers how resilient they are while sitting comfortably. You discover it when everything inside you is telling you to quit and you keep going anyway. That is exactly when an iron mindset is born. Because the real enemy was never the pain, it was never the fear, it was never the effort. The real enemy has always been the quiet negotiation happening inside your head. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll rest just for today. I'll get back to it later. One day won't make a difference. It does. Every time you refuse that negotiation, you strengthen one identity, and every time you give into it, you strengthen another. A stronger mind is built the moment you decide that discomfort no longer gets a vote in the decisions that shape your life. And perhaps that is the greatest change a person can make, because when discomfort stops controlling your choices, discipline takes its place, and when discipline takes its place, your entire life begins to change. Action 2. Don't go through life without discovering what you're capable of. There is a lie that keeps extremely capable people exhausted all the time. They believe they have no energy left. But most of the time, that isn't true. They're simply using their strength in the wrong direction. That difference changes everything, because an iron mindset isn't built when you learn how to have more energy. It's built when you stop wasting it. Stop for a moment and think about yesterday. How much of your energy did you use to build the life you want? And how much of it was spent trying to control people, convince those who didn't want to listen, respond to criticism, imagine conversations that never happened, or replay mistakes that were already over? It's interesting when you realize this. Your body can be tired after a full day of work, but your mind can be exhausted without having built absolutely anything. And there's a reason for that. The mind doesn't distinguish between a real problem and a problem you've replayed 100 times in your head. It pays the price for both. Imagine leaving home with your phone charged to 100%. Now imagine leaving dozens of apps running at the same time. None of them seems to use much power on its own, but together they keep draining your battery in the background. By the end of the day, your phone dies, not because you used it too much, but because you left running what should have been closed a long time ago. Your mind does exactly the same thing. The argument from 3 days ago is still running. The criticism you received is still running. The fear of the future is still running. The comparison with other people is still running. The guilt is still running. Each thought takes up a little space, but together they drain all your strength. And when something that truly matters comes along, you have no energy left. Maybe you think you're tired of life, but maybe you're simply tired of carrying things that were never yours to carry. Epictetus taught that some things are within our control and others never will be. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the second category, and when they fail, they believe they lack strength. They don't lack strength, they lack direction. Imagine someone trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. They work harder, move faster, search for more motivation, but the water keeps leaking out. The problem was never the amount of water, it was the hole. Your energy works exactly the same way. As long as you keep giving your attention to what you cannot control, you'll keep trying to solve exhaustion by creating more energy. When in reality, what you need to do is stop the leaks. There is one question people with an iron mindset ask themselves every day. Does this deserve my energy? It sounds simple, but that question can change the course of your life. Because every time the answer is no, you reclaim a piece of your life. Every time you stop feeding a pointless worry, you have more strength left to build a dream. Every time you choose not to respond to a provocation, you have more peace to protect the people you love. Every time you stop fighting what was never under your control, you discover something extraordinary. You have always had more strength than you realized. It was simply scattered across places that never deserved it. And maybe that's exactly what separates an ordinary mind from an iron mindset. It doesn't have more energy than anyone else. It simply chooses every single day what is worth spending that energy on. Action 3. Whoever masters their emotions can master any situation. There is a single second that determines a large part of your life. The problem is that almost no one realizes it exists. Imagine that someone has just said something that hurt you, a criticism, a provocation, something unfair. You feel your chest tighten, your heart starts racing, the words are already rising in your throat. In that moment, it feels like there is only one choice: respond. But there isn't. There is a space so small that many people go their entire lives without ever noticing it. It is the space between what happens to you and what you decide to do next. And that is exactly where an iron mindset is born. Ordinary people may believe their emotions control them, but mentally strong people understand that emotions are visitors. They arrive without asking permission, but they don't have to decide what happens in the house. Think about how many decisions you wish you could erase. The message sent on impulse, the argument that destroyed a relationship, the job you quit in a moment of anger, the purchase you made out of anxiety, the words you could never take back. Almost all of them came from the same place, not from the situation, but from a reaction that happened too quickly. And perhaps this is one of the mind's greatest illusions, believing that feeling something means you have to act on it immediately. You don't. Feeling angry does not mean you have to attack. Feeling afraid does not mean you have to run. Feeling anxious does not mean you have to give up. There is a gap between feeling and acting, and the wider that gap becomes, the stronger you become. This is exactly what Epictetus tried to teach. He said that people are not disturbed by events, but by the way they interpret those events. Think about how powerful that idea is. If two people go through exactly the same situation and only one of them loses their peace, then peace was never in the situation. It was always in the response. And that changes everything, because it means that no one can put anger inside you, no one can put fear inside you, no one can put despair inside you. People only provide the stimulus. The response is still yours. Now imagine a perfectly still lake. All it takes is one stone and the entire surface begins to ripple. That is exactly how most people live. Any comment, any criticism, any delay, any problem is enough to turn calm into a storm. But there is another kind of lake. A lake so deep that the stone only disturbs the surface, the waves appear. But they cannot reach the bottom. An iron mindset works exactly the same way. It does not eliminate emotions. It creates enough depth so they no longer control who you are. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself that the mind can remain like a rocky promontory against which the waves continually break. The waves never stop coming, but the rock remains standing. That is the difference. Mental strength was never about preventing life from hitting you. It was always about preventing every hit from changing who you have decided to be. So the next time someone tries to take away your peace, don't respond immediately. Pause. Breathe, because that brief silence may seem insignificant. But that is exactly where the man or woman you are becoming is built. Every time you choose your response instead of acting on impulse, you strengthen a part of your mind, and eventually, what once ruined your entire day lasts only a few minutes, then only a few seconds, until you discover an extraordinary truth. The world remains exactly the same. People are still difficult, problems still arise. But there is one difference. They can no longer control you, because whoever learns to master the second before reacting learns to master almost any situation. Action 4. You need to value yourself more in your own eyes. For a long time, you may have believed that confidence was the feeling of being admired. When people praised your choices, you felt secure. When they recognized your effort, it seemed like you were on the right path. When someone important believed in you, it became easier to believe in yourself too. But all it took was for the praise not to come, for someone to disagree, or for someone to treat what mattered to you as insignificant, and that confidence began to disappear. Not because you had lost your ability, but because you had placed your worth somewhere you could never protect it, in other people's opinions. This is one of the most subtle forms of dependence there is. First, you ask for someone's opinion before making a decision. Then you start watching people's faces while you speak, trying to figure out whether they approve. Little by little, you change certain words, hide certain desires, and shrink certain dreams so you don't seem selfish, excessive, or too different. Until one day, you no longer know whether you're living the life you truly want or simply the one that doesn't bother anyone. And no iron mindset can be built on that foundation. A strong mind is not one that ignores every opinion or believes it is always right. Strength is being able to listen without losing yourself. It is considering criticism without turning it into a verdict. It is remaining open to learning while being grounded enough not to reshape yourself every time someone disapproves of your choices. Think of a tree during a storm. Its branches move, its leaves may be torn away, and its trunk feels the force of the wind. The tree bends where it needs to bend, but it does not let go of the ground. What keeps it standing is not what everyone can see. It is the roots, buried beneath the surface, growing long before anyone admires what appears above the ground. Your sense of worth needs to be built the same way. In the parts no one applauds, in the right decision that will never be posted, in the boundary you maintain even knowing that someone will be disappointed, in the courage to admit a mistake without destroying the way you see yourself, and in the discipline to keep working when recognition has not yet come. These are your roots, and the deeper they grow, the less your identity depends on the weather around you. You will still enjoy being praised. You will still feel the weight of criticism. You will still want to be understood by the people you love. Inner strength does not turn you into stone. It simply prevents every external change from forcing you to change direction. Because not everyone who loves you will understand your decisions. Some will speak from their own fears. Others will only see the person you have always been and struggle to accept the person you are becoming. Maybe your decision to grow will look like distance. Maybe your boundary will look like coldness. Maybe your discipline will look like obsession. Maybe your no will look selfish to someone who benefited from all your yeses. And this is one of the most painful parts of growth. You can make the right choice and still disappoint someone. You can act with integrity and still be misunderstood. Maturity means accepting that you cannot always preserve both your truth and the image others want to keep of you. Maybe that is why so many people remain trapped in lives that no longer fit who they are. They do not lack the ability to change. They lack the courage to face the reaction of those who preferred them the way they were. But building inner worth does not mean declaring war on the world. It means stopping the war against yourself just to keep everyone else comfortable. You do not need to reject every opinion. You need to learn how to examine it. When someone criticizes you, ask, is there any truth here that can help me grow? If there is, use it. Correct what needs to be corrected. But do not confuse a wrong action with a worthless identity. You can fail without being a failure. You can make a bad decision without being incapable of making good decisions. You can be rejected without being unworthy of love. You can go unrecognized without your effort losing its meaning. A strong sense of inner worth allows you to separate what happened from who you are. The Stoics built much of their philosophy around this distinction. Relationships can end, positions can be lost, money can disappear, recognition can be given to someone else. If your identity rests entirely on these things, you will live in constant fear of losing them. But your character cannot be taken from you in the same way. Your integrity depends on your choices. Your discipline depends on what you do. Your courage depends on how you respond when life puts you under pressure. This is where your sense of worth needs to grow. Not in what you own, not in how others see you, but in the person you choose to be. Michel de Montaigne wrote that the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. Belonging to yourself does not mean living in isolation. It means not allowing the fear of rejection to turn you into a guest in your own life. And that respect is not built through positive phrases repeated in front of a mirror. It is built through evidence. You learn to trust yourself when you keep the promises you make to yourself. When you say you are going to start and you start. When you realize something is violating your dignity and you walk away. When you make a mistake, own it and make it right. Each of these actions becomes evidence that your word means something, that your principles do not exist only when they are convenient, and that even under pressure you do not abandon yourself. This is how inner worth is built, not through admiration, but through consistency. And maybe this is the question you need to ask yourself. How many times have you protected your relationship with someone at the expense of your relationship with yourself? How many times have you accepted hurtful treatment just so you would not be called difficult? How many times have you made your own dreams smaller so no one else would feel threatened by it? Maybe you called it love, loyalty, or patience. But love should not require you to disappear. Being loyal does not mean betraying yourself, and being patient does not mean allowing your boundaries to be crossed indefinitely. There comes a point when continuing to abandon yourself stops being kindness and becomes fear. An iron mindset demands that you face that fear. It demands that you stop giving yourself away in pieces just to fit everyone else's expectations. Starting today, before asking whether they will approve of your decision, ask whether you will still be able to respect yourself after making it. Before saying yes, ask what part of you will have to be silenced to keep that yes alive. Listen, learn, reevaluate, but do not hand your identity over to people who will not have to live with the consequences of your choices. People can guide you, they can warn you, they can disagree with you, but they cannot live your life for you. At the end of the day, when the noise fades, there is a kind of approval that no amount of applause can replace. The peace of knowing, maybe not everyone understood my choice, but I did not abandon myself just to be understood. This is how your roots grow. This is how your worth stops being an opinion and becomes a foundation. Criticism will still come, rejection will still hurt, and some goodbyes will still be difficult. The wind can shake your branches and change the landscape around you. But it no longer decides whether you remain standing, because now your roots run deeper than your need to be accepted. Action 5. Make every difficulty work in your favor. Maybe you have already gone through a phase when you no longer recognized yourself. You woke up tired before even getting out of bed. You did what needed to be done, almost on autopilot, while inside, you were trying to understand how your life had reached that point. Maybe it was a loss you never expected, someone who left, a relationship that ended while you still had hope, a project you invested time, money, and trust in, only to watch it fall apart right in front of you. Or maybe it was a quieter period when nothing seemed dramatically wrong, but everything inside you felt out of place. At that moment, you probably were not thinking about growth. You were not thinking about resilience. You were not thinking that one day you would tell that story with more strength in your voice. You just wanted it to pass, and that is human. When you are in pain, no one wants to receive a lesson. You simply want to recover what you lost, go back to the moment before it happened, or find a way out that makes everything stop. But some difficulties cannot be undone. They arrive, change the landscape, and leave behind a version of life that no longer exists. That is exactly where one of the most important decisions of an iron mindset appears. Now that this has happened, what can no longer remain the same within me? That question does not erase the pain. It does not turn an injustice into something fair. It does not force you to be grateful for what you suffered. It does something more honest. It prevents the suffering from being wasted, because maybe you did not choose what happened, but you can still choose what you will do with what remains. That difference may seem small, but it completely changes the place that difficulty occupies in your story. One person goes through betrayal and spends the next several years distrusting everyone. Another person goes through the same pain, learns to recognize signs they once ignored, strengthens their boundaries, and never again abandons their own dignity just to keep someone close. Both were hurt, but the wound produced different outcomes. One person loses a job and turns being fired into proof that they have no value. Another person feels the same fear, faces the same uncertainty, but uses that moment to realize they had spent years depending on a single door. They learn a new skill, look for new paths, rebuild their confidence, not because losing the job was a good thing, but because they decided not to let that loss have the final word on what they were capable of. That is what it means to take a lesson from every difficulty. It is not pretending that everything happens for some perfect reason. It is not looking at a fresh wound and saying that it was necessary. It is refusing to let pain be the only thing left behind after the experience is over. Think about everything you have already been through. There were moments when you believed you would not be able to keep going. Maybe no one knew how much effort it took for you to get up, work, take care of the house, have a normal conversation, or simply make it through one more day. On the outside, you looked like you were moving forward. On the inside, you were gathering pieces of yourself that no one else could see scattered around. But you kept going, maybe not with courage, maybe not with hope, maybe simply because there was no other option at that moment. Still, you kept going. And that reveals something you may have forgotten. You have already survived days that, before they happened, you would have sworn you could never endure. Your strength did not appear as some overwhelming feeling. It appeared as presence, in the morning when you got up, even though you did not want to, in the conversation you faced even while shaking, in the bills you reorganized even while afraid, in the decision to begin again without knowing whether it would work. That is how your resilience revealed itself, not as the absence of vulnerability, but as the ability to keep moving forward even while part of you was still trying to put itself back together. Difficulties work like mirrors, but not because they only show you how strong you are. They also show you where you are still vulnerable. They show you the boundaries you should have set sooner, the conversations you postponed, the people you gave responsibilities to that were actually yours, the signs you chose to ignore, the beliefs that seemed true until life put them to the test. That is why difficulty can teach you far more than a peaceful season ever can. When life is calm, almost everything seems solid. You believe you know people. You believe you have control over your emotions. You believe you know where your limits are. But it is under pressure that structures reveal what they are truly made of. A bridge does not prove its strength when it is empty. It proves its strength when weight moves across it. The same is true for you. Easy days reveal what you enjoy. Difficult days reveal who you are becoming. And here is an essential point. Difficulty, by itself, does not make anyone stronger. It can also make someone hard, bitter, and trapped. Suffering does not automatically make a person wise. Some people go through pain and only learn to become more afraid. Others go through it and learn to inflict on others what was once inflicted on them. An experience only becomes growth when it is examined, when you stop asking only, "Why did they do this to me?" and begin asking, "What is this experience showing me that I can no longer ignore?" Maybe it is showing you that you need to stop handing your sense of worth to people who do not know how to recognize it. Maybe it is showing you that your financial life cannot keep depending on impulsive decisions. Maybe it is revealing that you spent too much time trying to save someone who never decided to change. Maybe it is showing you that your body had been asking for rest, movement, or care long before you finally stopped. Maybe the difficulty did not create the problem. Maybe it simply turned on the light over something that had already been broken in the dark. That is one of the most painful functions of obstacles. They interrupt the illusion that we can keep living the same way forever. They force you to see what comfort allowed you to postpone. And even though that realization hurts, it also gives you power back, because what you can finally see, you can also begin to transform. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote that what lies behind us and what lies before us are small compared with what lies within us. That idea does not mean your problems are small. Some of them are not. It means that you do not fully know the resources within you until the moment you are forced to use them. Before going through a loss, you do not know how you will rebuild your life afterward. Before being rejected, you do not know whether you will still be able to believe in yourself. Before starting over, you do not know whether you have enough strength to endure the uncertainty. Maybe you discover patience where there used to be only urgency, courage where you thought there was too much fear, creativity when the familiar path closes, humility to admit that you need help, and strength to say no after years of accepting everything. Those resources were already inside you, but maybe they had never been given a reason to appear. It is like walking into a house during a power outage. You believe you know every room, but only when the lights go out do you discover whether you can move through it without being able to see. At first you stumble, bump into furniture, feel afraid. Then you begin to recognize the space in a different way. You learn where to place your hands. You discover paths you once walked without paying attention. When the lights come back on, the house is the same, but you are no longer the same person inside it. Difficulties do that. For a while, they take away the certainties you use to guide yourself, and in that darkness, you are forced to develop a deeper way of finding your direction. The Stoics understood that character is not a speech about who you would like to be. It is the response you give when reality stops cooperating. It is easy to talk about calm when everyone treats you well. It is easy to talk about discipline when your body feels ready. It is easy to talk about confidence when results are showing up. But who do you become when the plan fails? When someone does not keep their promise? When your effort is not rewarded? When you have to keep going with no guarantees? That is the moment when your character stops being an intention and becomes evidence. An iron mindset is not built by how many powerful phrases you know. It is built by how many times you can turn a blow into awareness. Rejection teaches you not to beg to stay where you are not chosen. Mistakes teach you the difference between acting courageously and acting without preparation. Loss teaches you that loving something does not give you control over how long it stays. Failure teaches you that your strategy can fail without your worth disappearing along with it. Loneliness teaches you whether you have built an inner life or simply become used to the noise of other people. Every difficulty carries a question, and the quality of your life often depends on the answer you give. You can ask, "Why does this always happen to me?" That question places you at the center of a personal attack. It makes it seem as though life is gathering events specifically to defeat you, And the more you repeat that question, the more evidence your mind begins to look for that you are constantly a victim of circumstances. But you can also ask, what can I do with this now? That question does not deny what happened. It shifts your focus from what was taken away to what still remains in your hands. Maybe you cannot recover the opportunity, but you can prepare better for the next one. Maybe you cannot change what someone did, but you can decide how much access that person will have to your life from this point forward. Maybe you cannot erase a mistake, but you can keep it from happening again. Maybe you cannot go back to the beginning, but you can choose more consciously from where you are now. The first question looks for someone to blame for the pain. The second looks for a direction for your strength. And it is that second question that brings movement back into your life. Marcus Aurelius often practiced what the Stoics called the view from above. He tried to observe events from a broader perspective, as if he could rise above the moment itself and see beyond the immediate emotion. Do this with the difficulty you are facing right now. Imagine that you can look at it from very far away, not only from this day, not only from this month. Look at it from 5 years in the future. What might this experience be demanding that you learn? What decision is it making unavoidable? What weakness is it revealing? What dependency needs to end? What part of your life can no longer continue being handled the same way? Maybe today, all you can see is the loss, but from a distance, you may also be able to see the change in direction. The person you stopped chasing, the boundary you finally established, the skill you had to develop, the courage you would never have looked for during easier times. That does not mean that one day you will be grateful for everything you went through. Some pain will remain painful. Some losses never need to be called blessings. But you may be able to look back and recognize that was not good. But I built something good from it. That is a much more genuine form of strength. It does not try to make suffering look beautiful. It transforms what can be transformed without lying about what was lost. Maybe life placed you in a situation you did not deserve. Even so, your response can build a person that situation never expected to meet. More aware, more selective, more prepared, harder to deceive, more capable of recognizing your own worth. The experience may have hurt you, but it does not have to keep controlling you. That is the difference between carrying a scar and continuing to live as if the wound were still open. A scar does not erase what happened. It shows that the body managed to close what once bled. Your mind also needs to learn how to close, not by forgetting, not by pretending, but by taking everything the experience had to teach you and refusing to keep paying for a lesson you have already learned. Because when you do not learn, pain often returns wearing a different face. You change relationships, but repeat the same pattern of abandoning yourself. You change jobs, but continue accepting the same disrespect. You move to another city, but carry the same fears with you. You change the setting, but keep the same structure that produced the suffering. The real lesson is not only understanding what the other person did, it is discovering what you need to do differently from this point forward. Maybe trust more slowly, maybe speak up sooner, maybe stop ignoring small warning signs, maybe ask for help before reaching your limit, maybe stop insisting where you are the only one trying, maybe accept that courage can also mean walking away. When a difficulty ends, do not ask only, "How do I forget?" Ask, "What do I need to remember so I never return to this same place in the same way again?" That question turns memory into wisdom. And wisdom is the difference between simply surviving an experience and truly overcoming it. Overcoming does not mean you no longer feel anything. It means that experience no longer makes your decisions for you. You can remember without going back. You can feel without losing yourself. You can acknowledge the pain without building your entire identity around it. That is how difficulties stop being only sad chapters and begin contributing to the construction of a stronger mind. The next time a problem appears, allow yourself to feel the impact. Breathe. Acknowledge what you lost. Do not turn strength into a rush to look okay. But when emotion begins to make room for clarity, ask yourself 3 questions. What is this difficulty revealing? What is it demanding that I develop? What can no longer remain the same after this? Maybe the first answer brings awareness, the second brings ability, and the third brings change. That is how suffering stops being only a burden and also becomes a direction. Challenges do not define you, but the way you respond to them contributes every day to the person you are becoming. You do not need to win every battle to build an iron mindset. You only need to make sure that none of them passes through your life without teaching you something that makes you better prepared for the next one. Do not waste a single difficulty. Take from it the boundary you need to set, the truth you need to accept, the habit you need to leave behind, the strength you did not yet know you had. Because maybe you did not choose the fire, but now that you have passed through it, you can choose not to come out as the same metal that went in. Life will test you tomorrow, but today you learned how to remain whole. That is the strength of the Stoic house, ancient wisdom for modern hearts. If these words resonated with you, leave a like, share them with someone who needs them, and subscribe to keep moving forward, one day at a time.